Today we are going to be showing you how to hand letter a old style Union 76 sign. As you can see here, I have already drawn on the logo that we're going to be painting and the wording. We also used a pounce pattern that we drew the Union 76 logo on, and it looks like this right here. After you get the drawing on your paper that you use, we use a perforating wheel. It's basically just a wheel with stars on it, if the camera will focus there. We run it across the lines that we draw, and it leaves little small holes inside of the paperwork. And as you can see the lighting through the paper. We then take that, put it on the sign blank, and we use a chalk rag. Some sign painters use a actual manufactured pounce box, but I'm from the old school. We actually just use a sock, and we take and fill it with chalk line powder, and I have several different colors. Some colors, the reds and oranges, you have to use a different colored chalk on orange or it won't show up. And then a lot of times what I also do is I don't like painting over the powdered lines that it leaves, so I'll go ahead and go back over the layout with China marker and just very softly put that on there, and then I turn and then around and wipe off the powder, and it gives you a little bit cleaner lines. As you can see here on this, I have actually went over it with a China marker, and then down here I have made a small pattern that says service, and I have left the chalk lines on there for you to see. And so, like I say, it just makes a little cleaner looking sign. But we're going to get started lettering here. We're using one-shot lettering. Enamels is what I use on everything that I paint. It's what my father and my grandfather used, so I have just stayed with that way of doing it. I know there's a lot of other paints out there, and there's probably no difference in them. I know Ronen's a good paint, and there's others as well, but this is what I grew up using, and I have just stuck with it. We're going to be starting out using about a size 4 lettering quill, and I have a lot of different brands that I use. I like Luco really well, and then I use the newer Max. They're not the greatest quality, but they get the job done. And I use the 179L series quite a bit. Now, to get the lines clean, I use a 3M poly tape. It's 1/4 inch, and it's called number 36351, I believe is the number on it. And I apply this just to keep my edges a little bit clean, and it makes it a little bit faster. You'll want to make sure increase your corner of your tape as you put it on, but it's just a poly tape, simple, buy it about any automotive paint store. First color that I'm putting on is going to be a brilliant blue. It's about the prettiest blue to me that anyone manufactures. I use gasoline actually as my thinner. The reason I do that is gasoline evaporates out of the paint very fast, and it leaves it very glossy, whereas a lot of thinners kind of have an oily feel to them and takes longer for them to set up. The gasoline actually helps the paint cure quicker. You'll want to make sure if you use a China marker that after you put the China marker on there that you take and rub a little of it off, because if you leave it too heavy sometimes it will have a tendency to bleed through your paint and show. So I always simply just take and rub my finger over it before I start lettering, just to knock off any buildup of your China marker. And try to put it on as light as you can as well when you're drawing it on initially. You don't want to sit there and just load it up real heavy. This is going to have a white outline around the entire, got a little hair in it right there. I need to dig that out. There we go. If you're interested in seeing a lot of the signs that we produce here, you can see our, I don't know, we have about 250 signs that we keep listed on eBay, and you can go to our eBay site, which is Hot Rod Signs, and see a lot of the signs that we produce. This particular 3M tape makes a very nice clean line, and like I say, it just saves you a little time as you're doing the sign. So the next step is I'm going to put the union on the bottom, and then from there we'll do the white. So now we are going to put on the white. We are using a MAC 189L series brush. There again, just wipe one shot. Now this white on the orange will have to be double coated. And with as warm as it is today, you can actually double coat it in about 15 minutes. And I don't know if the camera's showing it or not, but to get your corners, edges the way you want freehand style like this, you get it by turning the brush with your fingers. Simple method. As I had said earlier, this is the hardest part for me, is to do these small pinstripes because my hand shakes now that I've gotten older. I'm using a size 3 brush on this, however it is wore down to probably about a size 1. So our next step here is we are going to be just doing what we call a casual, or in sign painter terminology, amongst sign painters they call it their knockout style lettering. And that's what I'm going to be putting on the top and bottom line here, and in the center is just going to be a block style letter. But as I said earlier in the video, make sure when you're using a wax pencil that you take off excess wax, because it will at times show through. And then after the lettering dries, either later today or tomorrow, you can wipe off the rest of your lines that show. I am using a MAC size 8 that's probably wore down to about a size 6 for this lettering. Most knockout or casual style lettering is usually something that the sign painter developed throughout the course of the years of his own of lettering, which is his own style of lettering. My knockout is something that's been developed that was similar to something that my father used. He had been a sign painter before he passed away for about 60 years. And from watching him as a child growing up, I've watched him letter literally thousands of diesel trucks out in California back in the day of a lot of owner-operators. And my brother and I did not go to school, and so we would go to work with our dad and stand and watch him letter for hours. And so a lot of the things that I do is stuff that I guess from watching him throughout the years I picked up. He was a good sign painter, and his father was a sign painter as well, and my grandfather had 7 brothers that were all commercial sign artists back in the heyday when sign shops still painted signs. They all originated out of a sign shop in Oklahoma City. Ended up in California during the 40s, and they all went out on their own and worked as sign painters most of their lives. The next line is going to be block lettering, so I'm going to use our poly tape to clean these lines, make it a little bit faster. Makes a very nice clean line. You can use cheaper tape. This tape here is about $12 a roll, but you can actually, in the old days, the sign painters used to use Scotch tape. Just plain old household Scotch tape will work on these as well. One thing you want to keep in mind when you're removing your tape, you want to give it a couple minutes before you remove it after you've laid your paint down, because if you move it too fast you will get basically paint spray or a fine mist. This is a pretty simple process. I normally do this with the sign laying down. Since I have to put my line in the middle of the sign here, we're going to draw a few lines and then I'll show you what I do on this. So like I said earlier, every sign guy has a different way of doing things, and I'm not sure that there's actually a right way or a wrong way. It's just however you learn to do it is what you kind of stick with. A lot of guys probably don't like using tape, but they may consider it cheating, but hey, if it saves me 20 minutes a sign, that's 20 minutes that I can spend on another job. And it's a lot easier than So, like I say, I normally do this laying down, or the sign laying down, I should say. I'm not sure if the camera can see what I'm doing here or not. I forgot to raise the tripod up high enough, so hopefully you can see it all right. Pretty simple process, nothing major. If you're doing this kind of a stripe where you're doing the middle of the sign, you want to do your sides first, and there's a reason for that. It makes it a little bit easier. And we're going to square off the bottom. And if you did your top or bottom first, it'd be a little more complicated. Got a hair there. Get it out. We're going to round the inside of the corners.